Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today for Spiegelbaum Scraps, and I had asked a couple of weeks ago for some suggestions, and Kim had suggested that maybe I try and do a mosaic for art theme. So this is a digital cut file. It's from Paige Evans, and it's available in the Silhouette Design store, and I cut that out using my Silhouette Cameo. I actually rotated it in order to, my original plan had been that I was going to use this and put the sequins inside the dots, but I changed my mind. I decided I was going to make my life much more complicated, and so I am just using a silver pen here to put marks on my black paper, which is why I have the silver pen. So I used the cut file as a stencil, and I was going to make each and every dot a place where sequence was going to go. I don't know what craziness I was thinking when I decided to do that. So you will find that this is a very long video. I have actually edited out a fair amount of the video. This was a very labor-intensive layout. I absolutely love and adore the way that it turned out, but it really is a lot of work. So I literally went over, I cannot even tell you how many of those dots I went over in order to mark the placement of where the sequins are going to go. I went over some of those dots more than once because originally the pen didn't work. Lucky me. And so I also didn't want to glue down this sequence not knowing how it was going to look, and it's a good thing that I didn't because I changed my mind in the placement of the sequence. So the sequences that I am using are from the Ferris Wheel collection. They are mix. They are basically an ombre of teal different sequins. There's some that are different sizes. There's the flowers, and that is the picture that I wanted to use. I had converted it to black and white, knowing that it was going to be a perfect complement to the look that I was going for here. Now, I originally intentionally offset the snowflake so that I could have pattern paper somewhere, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to have a lot because the star of this layout really is the sequins. And so I did end up finding a bit of a pattern in the layout of the sequence, and then I'm going to have the round, circular, I'm not sure what they're called, but they're the circle in the circle in the circle sequence, and then a smaller disc, and then the lighter teal, and then the smaller disc, and then the flower, and I just repeated that pattern. So after I had placed all of the sequins down, I then used my tacky glue to lift up the sequence, put some glue, and then stick the sequence back down. And I needed to be very careful because I found not long after I started that if I moved my hand because I wasn't paying attention into the sequence that I hadn't glued down, they were going to shift. I did leave the bottom left-hand side of the snowflake bare because I knew that the picture was going to be there, and with those little flower cupped sequins, it was very difficult to, I knew I didn't want those raised surfaces. In fact, I'm not quite sure how this is going to work in a page protector because I can see those cupped flower sequences creating a bit of a problem on the page protector. So this will probably be a layout that stays in a frame for a little while. So after hours, truly hours of figuring out how this was going to work, I had completed the gluing, and I actually had to step away for a little while. A, my back needed a break, and B, I needed time for the sequence to dry so that I could work on the remainder of the layout. So I have a tealy color cardstock and that piece of One Canoe 2 paper that looks like falling snow that I created an edge with on that left-hand side. And I am working with the Snow and Cocoa collection from Crate Paper. I wanted to stick with that teal theme that the sequins have, and wanted a monochromatic sort of palette to this along with the black and white. I did find that the 6x6 paper pad from Crepe Paper does not very well match with the embellishments. The 6x6 paper pad is more green, and the rest of the stuff is more of a tealy color. So that was a bit frustrating, but that's okay because I had other elements that I could work with. And so I'm looking for a few paper layers to go behind the picture. And I actually, when I was looking and searching for things, decided to use some of the packaging, and you'll see that in a little bit. So this picture is great in black and white, but it needed a little bit of teal to kind of pop the picture and provide a soft contrast between the dark black background and the white of the picture. So I found that plaid that worked perfectly as a frame behind the picture. Then I saw in this 6x6 paper pad the calendars, and I thought that the January calendar, because that's when this picture was taken, January, would be a fun layer behind the picture, but I couldn't make it work. It was too big, and it ended up being too big of a bulk poking out from behind the picture. But I do have yet another Cocoa Daisy Arlay label. It's a print file that I just fussy cut that is the perfect color and sticks with the ombre theme that I'm going for here on this layout. And I stick that, I'm going to play with that and shuffle that around a little bit. And you can see I really wanted that calendar to work, and I tried making it work, but you can see how it's a bit of an eyesore sticking that far out of the picture. I know I want to raise this off the layout a little bit, which is fine given how far some of the sequins stick off the layout. So I just have a little bit of fun foam. And by using the fun foam, it allowed me to use some coordinating silver thread that looks perfect like the little flurries of snow that were flurrying around us. And that's the thread wad, as I call it, or thread ball, that I just sort of tucked in between the foam and the background paper that I had there. I'm going to use two of these thread balls or wads, one on the top of the picture and one in the bottom. But first I need to adhere these because I know that the picture is going to end up overlapping those, or I suspect that it might. So I just need to figure out the placement, whether it was going to be the cardstock first and or the falling snow first from One Canoe 2, or what I'm calling falling snow. And I wanted a little bit of a softer edge to this, and so I just ripped the cardstock, and I decided the falling snow first would look better. I just laid that on top of the cardstock so that I could just adhere it all down together. And just butt that up to the edge of the layout. And you can see how that creates a little bit more symmetry between the edge of the page and the snowflake. I did put down a few sequins where I decided that I wanted my picture to go. And so I did end up pulling those up, which was easy to do, and didn't pull up too much of the cardstock. So I'm going to work on my title. I think I'm going to work on my title. And I knew I wanted to use the stickers that came with this collection, but I also knew that I wanted to stick with the colors. So this is where as I was starting to embellish the page, I saw, as I was pulling off elements, this packaging, and it has some really cool teal colored stripes, which added another layer behind my picture that worked with the color scheme that I wanted, and was a great way to incorporate yet more of my stash into my layout. So you can see, in order to get the top and the bottom, I just cut the packaging in half and then glue that down onto my layout. Those are all the layers, and it's just time to embellish the page. And there's the calendar cast aside because I couldn't make that work. So I'm trying. So I wanted the snowflake there in the corner. There's a fairly big white space in the edge of that picture. And so the snowflake hanging off the edge was a perfect continuation of the theme there. And most of the embellishments that I'm looking for here are again of that aqua, of dark, medium light hues that I'm looking for. And I pull off some more snowflakes to just tie that theme together. The problem with the snowflakes is that if you ended up putting too many on, it took away from the giant sequin snowflake that I had created, and I didn't really want to do that. Again, my picture was on fun foam, so I needed to put some foam behind that snowflake in order to keep that level with on the same level as the picture, because I had attached that over the picture. And I'm not sure that I do this before I turn the camera off, but I do end up using a few of the extra sequins. There weren't many left, but I did put a few of them scattered in that left corner there, one in the center of the snowflake, one on the picture, and then one of the little floral ones between the upper snowflakes there. I knew that I wanted to use Wonderland, and so I wasn't sure how I was going to place this. Originally, I wanted it to be up at the top because there's a fair amount of space at the top of the snowflake right there, but it made things a little bit too disjointed, so I knew I was going to end up having to put the title near the picture. The problem is that the picture was up on foam, and these letters are a little bit thinner, and the idea of cutting craft fun foam to fit underneath each of these letters did not appeal to me. So I had to play with the placement a little bit to figure out how I could get these letters down on the lower part of the page and not as high as the picture is. And it's not that high, but I did add depth by having the craft foam there. And I knew I wanted winter as the other part, so I cut out this phrase. I can't remember what it says off the top of my head, but I just wanted winter, so I was okay with cutting that in order to have the black element that coordinated with the rest of the layout. So I made a banner out of winter and then had to figure out where Wonderland was going to go so that it wasn't hanging off the picture and I didn't have to put fun foam. And it was a bit of a puzzle for me. So I decided that that was going to work. Just fold back the wax paper and push the letters down, and then it was easy to take it off and have them lined up. And it allowed me to figure out the spacing of the letters as well relative to the sequence, because again, a few of them did pop up and I may not have left myself enough room as I adhered those all down. I do have that thread that's there, that silver thread, and so some of them were shifting around, but I love the effect that that thread created. Now, I still have that big space up at the top right-hand side of the page. I feel like everything's sort of floating downhill. So what I do off camera, and you will see this in the close-ups, because I didn't remember to turn the camera on, is I do fill up that space in the top right up there. I created two banners, and I used another one of the tags from Cocoa Daisy, as well as a few of the other embellishments, and you'll see that in a close-up coming up. So if you find that you need to buy any sequins today or anything else from the Spiegelbaum Scrap Store, if you use Suzanna 15, you get a 15% off discount. This is an entire collection mix that I used here just about. Thanks for stopping in today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments down below. Thanks for joining us. Take care.